morning. Good morning. Welcome to Unity of Fort Pierce. You are in the right place and at the right time. So just relax, grab a cup of coffee, enjoy our preliminary music, and we will be starting services in a few minutes. Thank you.
Well, that's fine. I'm going. I know why I said she's turning around to go back to church. Not a problem. Very kind. This is great. Lots of information. Yeah, that's all the stuff. Oh, where's she? She's having fun. They're getting away. I said they're getting away.
Sometime I could probably do that because I was on the schedule one time to do it and she didn't so I didn't have a chance to well, I thought I was on the schedule the last one she went out not yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Well, I'm excited to be back up here, and I am just so thankful to Reverend Janice for everything she's doing for me to help me through my internship. I can't believe I'm in my 4th year of seminary. It's my internship year, and she's worked so hard this whole past 4 years to keep me on track. So it's just, I couldn't be more thankful for having such an awesome mentor and to allow her this weekend to have her break. And so I just hope that she is enjoying her time and she deserves it. So let's open our service this morning with our opening song. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Unity of Fort Pierce. To lead us in our daily word and our vision and mission statements.
Thank you, Julia. Welcome, everyone. Happy Sunday. Fittingly, as is always the case, the daily word for today is joy. A growing awareness of God's presence is my greatest joy. Awakening from a restful sleep, I give thanks for the new day and all the people who will be part of it. Although I cannot know what will happen as this day unfolds, I remind myself that everything and everyone might lead me to a deeper awareness of God. This growing awareness is my greatest joy. Even if the day includes less than happy experiences, I will know the quiet joy and comforting strength of the peaceful presence of God that is with me always. I will rejoice today in being alive, able to think, to feel, to appreciate the sights, sounds, and aromas that fill my environment. I will discover joy anew as I recognize each person I meet today as a unique expression of the wonder of God. And the verse from Psalm 118:24, this is the day that the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And then next, together we will say our mission and vision statements.
We are an inclusive community, inspiring holistic, spirit-led living. Living unity principles, we envision a world awakening through prayer, meditation, fellowship, and service.
And then our statement of being together.
There is one presence and one power in my life and in the universe, God the good, omnipotent.
Okay. And before we sing into meditation, we would invite you to bring to mind also any situation or person you would like prayer for. And at the end of meditation, we will have a time for prayer. So if you're on Facebook, Steve's going to monitor the Facebook chat if you'd like to make a prayer request there. And now we can sing into meditation.
In this moment, where God resides, in this moment, God nothing but time. Get out of your mind, leave your troubles behind. In this moment, where God resides, in this moment, God knows to hide. Nothing's here to make you afraid, so send all your cares away. In this moment, where God resides, in this moment, you will find love flowing in, love flowing out. In this moment, in this moment, where God resides.
Okay, so I would just invite you to get comfortable right where you are. You can release any tension and resistance and be seated comfortably. And just begin to notice your breath as you inhale and exhale. Just noticing the coolness of the air at the tip of your nose as you inhale, and the warmth on the back of your throat as you exhale. Become aware of this beautiful body temple you are inhabiting. And breathing in and out. Inhaling as you inhale, allow good in. As you exhale, release anything that no longer serves you in this moment. Any situations or stresses of the past week, just let that go on every exhale. Allow yourself to be in this present moment. And as we breathe in, we are breathing in all the good of God, all good life has to offer. We are opening ourselves to be able to experience, to be open to all the blessings of life. On every inhale, we are open channels to receive, to be blessed, to bless in return, to experience circulation as we intend to be blessings in the world, to give and receive good. And just releasing any tension, any resistance, and just being in this moment, being right here, right now, being grateful for this body, this beautiful body temple. It is temporary, allows us to do the work that we are here to do. We're so grateful for that. And as we breathe, turning within, we acknowledge this peaceful presence. And we realize that we don't have to reach peace. We don't have to search for peace. We don't have to get peace. It simply is. Peace is within. Accessible to you at any moment you choose. This space. And just as we breathe in and out, we expand this peace. And we allow it to renew our soul, our body, our mind. This peaceful presence is so powerful. It clears our minds. It heals us, makes us whole, bringing us back into harmony with our true divine nature. Perfect, healthy, whole, and complete. This peaceful presence reminds us that we were born perfect and whole, and brings us back to that state of harmony. And from this awareness, we choose how to move through life, not reacting to the circumstances of the world, but creating our lives in a way that works for all of us, that bring the peace, bring the joy, bring the harmony. True love, true abundance, true joy flows from this space. And we are the hands of God to create that as a reality here and now. can't do anything without us. It is in our actions and in our choices that we choose God. And we allow God to express when we access this divine harmony. That this is our starting point. Powerful creators, full of love, joy, peace, abundance, ready to bless the world and receive blessings in return. This is our natural state. Perfect, healthy, whole, and complete. And just breathe that in for the next few breaths. Just breathing in peace. And as you exhale, just become aware of your body again. Maybe wiggling your toes, your fingers, bringing your attention back to this space. Now we will. If you don't want to say your prayer request out loud, just bring it to mind. Okay, so bring to mind your prayer requests. We have a prayer request for peace, for Mark. Any names that you are bringing to mind, any situations. Allow that to come up. And turning within, we acknowledge this peaceful presence that is a healing presence in all of our lives. That there is one power, one presence, God, the good omnipotent, that we are connected, that we bless and are blessed by this presence. And we allow this peaceful presence to work through each person, each situation that we are calling for in prayer. We see this peaceful healing presence at work in the lives of the people that we pray for. We see this peaceful presence at work within ourselves, bringing each situation to the highest and best possible. Yes.
Wedding anxiety.
Wedding anxiety. And we just see this beautiful wedding full of joy, love, laughter, family. That it is an experience that unites and brings love to all those who attend it. We allow God to heal all things. Yes?
Amber and Kurt as he transitions through end of life.
Amber and Kurt transitioning. We see God at work in those two souls, bringing them immense peace, protecting and guiding through the process of transition, allowing abundant peace to their families, allowing for the highest and best for all lives who are affected in their transition.
Our son Stephen and his family.
Stephen and his family, we see Stephen and his family. We see God at work in those lives, touching them, blessing them, allowing them to experience the highest and best only. And for any silent request, God is at work in this situation. And we see everything in the most abundant, joyful, loving state as we move through each of our situations, no matter what they are. God is at work, and so it is. Amen. Paulo Coelho. Is that how we say it? And this was a quote that I thought would be great for meditation, so I put it there and then I skipped it. It says, relax, allow the mind to become empty, and surprise yourself with the great treasure that begins to flow from your soul. Okay? So you can always go back there. You can always go back to that place of peace. So, Facebook friends can hear me better, because I know. So here we go. Now we're all caught up. So today's talk is about releasing disempowerment. Kind of a heavy topic, but I will try to make it really fun. So we're going to go through some scripture, some metaphysics. We're going to go through some unity teaching, some unity metaphysics on different levels of consciousness and take you all the way from victim to verity consciousness. So when we talk about releasing disempowerment, we're talking about getting out of victim consciousness. And when we talk about freedom today, we're talking about stepping into verity consciousness. And we will we'll go into all that. So, yeah, I had a really neat conversation with somebody from Unity of Jensen Beach. I spoke there 2 weeks ago, and I was talking to their board prior to that. And it was neat because their board president, I feel like he asked me the best question, like the best kind of metaphysics question anyone's ever asked me. And he knew that I was a lawyer and that I retired, and I had practiced criminal defense for 15 years, right? So I was talking to him and just, saying my primary practice was helping people with substance abuse issues. And and a lot of times the mom or dad would come to me, their kid had been arrested because they were involved with drugs in one way, shape, or form or another. So always, we were there to get them out of the jail situation and into treatment and things like that. That was 15 years of my life. And he asked me, well, what was it like going through that and practicing from a unity perspective? Knowing what you know and growing up in unity. And I just thought that was the best question anybody had ever asked me. So, and I told him, I said, well, and I had an answer because, the awareness has been present always. And I said, what, I really notice people. And I don't know if it's like this sensitivity, but I really notice where people are in consciousness. And I said, I worked with clients who found themselves in almost identical situations, a lot of times over and over. And I worked with people who kind of went into the situation with this belief that everything was going to work out great. I was going to, it's going to come out awesome. My life is going to move on and I'm going to be wonderful. And that tended to be what happened. And I also worked with people who were in almost identical situations who would come into the situation saying, the system's out to get me, I'm not going to get my treatment, I'm going to end up going to prison, but you know what I mean, the whole thing. And it was truly like their belief and where they were coming from. Nothing really different about facts in either one, but that tended to be their outcome, right, and their result. So I always noticed that. And I tried coaching people into having like a higher thing, but they don't want me to preach to them, so at that point usually. But that's what I noticed, and it's like that. It does lead me into today's topic because it's really looking at how we can liberate ourselves from that kind of victim thinking, that kind of victim consciousness, and that can be present in our lives in different areas and not present in another area. It can be, we're so multidimensional, nuanced, and complex, right? We really are. It's not like one all or nothing. But I personally don't call it victim thinking. I call it disempowerment. So releasing disempowerment. And I would like to start with some scripture because I feel like Jesus was a pretty good teacher about this topic and about freedom. And so in John, I'm going to read from the New Revised Standard Version Bible, John chapters 8, verses 31 through 36. And this is a passage called True Disciples. And it says, Then Jesus said to the Jews who had believed in him, If you continue in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free. They answered him, We are descendants of Abraham and have never been slaves to anyone. What do you mean by saying, you will be made free? Jesus answered them, Very truly I tell you, everyone who commits sin is a slave to sin. The slave does not have a permanent place in the household. The Son has a place there forever. So if the Son makes you free, you will be free indeed. Okay, so let's take a deeper look at that, right? The first thing that I noticed in this passage is that Jesus identifies a process for true freedom with the words if then. Not like a lawyer if then, not like if you pray 30 minutes a day facing east like that, no. But he identifies a process with those words. His words are, if you remain right? Which is also, you can say remain, dwell, or abide in the Word. If you remain in the Word, and what does the Word mean? When you hear the word metaphysically, don't even think of it as a word. Word is not a word, it's a feeling. Okay, so feeling, it's a feeling of the immanence and presence of God now. It's a feeling of the immanence and presence of God now. So if we remain in the feeling of the presence of God now, then you are a true disciple. And Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, defines disciple as realized unity with God through Christ, the Son of God idea always existing in consciousness. Always existing. So a disciple has the realized unity with God through Christ. This is really, when you guys hear verity consciousness as we move through this talk, this is what this is. So the disciple is the person who operates from that awareness. Just operates day-to-day life from the awareness of unity with God, of oneness. So the second piece here is about that little conversation, that exchange, right, where he was being questioned. So when we were talking about slaves, right, it's a confusion, and it's about not being slaves because we're the seed of Abraham. So did you hear that, how he had that question kind of thrown at him, like, well, we're not slaves, we're seeds of Abraham, like this superiority, right? And Jesus tells them, a bondservant and a slave, right, doesn't live in the house forever. So think about the house being your body temple, right? And there's that aspect. The bondservant and the slave doesn't live in the house forever, but the son will live forever. The bondservant slave is ruled by anything that is temporary, anything that comes to pass. Is identified with anything that comes to pass. Lineage identity is mortal and temporary. So in this, we get to pivot our awareness of the self not as a descendant of Abraham, because when you do that, you're just as much a victim as any slave, but you pivot your identity, and that was really good back then, right? But you pivot your identity to a consciousness shift, and that is to your divine inheritance. You are a child of God, right? That's the part of you that lives forever. This is big. This is big work, and it's like an extreme example. It's almost like, well, is Jesus saying, I don't have parents? He's saying God is your parent, right? There's the part of you that has parents on earth, the physical body, goes away. There's nothing, that's temporary. And when you identify with that part dies too. That goes away, it's temporary. When you identify yourself as a child of God, when you step into your eternal self, that is the son aspect of yourself. That is the part that is eternal, the part that lives forever. When you operate from that space, you have true freedom in this world now, right? You create, because you're not stuck, you're not attached to all these things that have been prescribed for you. You have complete authority and freedom to walk in the world and create it to be any way you want it, to create your own experience of life. That's where the juicy stuff happens. And when you've ever had juicy stuff happen in your life, and you're like, oh my God, I just did that, that's you being this way. That's you living from verity consciousness as a child of God, expressing. There is nothing more beautiful than a fully expressed human being. It's awesome. So Charles Fillmore helps us to understand this a little bit in Mysteries of John. Good book. I'll read you a few sentences here, because he's talking about this passage. He explains, those who think of themselves as descended from human ancestors are in bondage to all the limitations of those ancestors, regardless of their claims to the contrary. It is a falling short of the full stature of man to regard himself as descended from the human family. This is a sin that keeps the majority of men in bondage to sense consciousness, just to the temporary realm, right? So breaking those bonds of sense consciousness, victim consciousness, that keep us in a space of separateness from God. And you see that it's moving you closer to God. So when my mom died, which was 12 years ago, I felt my identity come in full effect, my identity with her, my role as her daughter, right? So my mom passed away 12 years ago, and it was an awesome experience, and I was very present for it, and it was loving and peaceful. And the months that followed that was what was in my face almost. It was just like, it was how much my identity was based around being her daughter, right? And how identified with that role that I was. And it was what it was actually was an invitation to go deeper into my awareness of God as my true parent, right? And that was always like my prayer. And it gave me this sense of just, being held by the universe. Because we all are backed by the universe when we acknowledge God as our true parent. That's available for all of us. You don't have to lose a parent to feel that. And some people who don't. But you can. So I think where I notice this bondage the most is when I think of or hear people say something like, well, that runs in my family. It's like, let's blame the genetics for any, disease, quirk, shortcoming, or anything, right? It's like the seed of Abraham, with the superiority. Well, we're exempt from this. We're Abraham's kids, It's still the same level. It's flip sides of the same coin. But the thing is, it's only true if you believe it, right? And we have the conscious ability to override that. So we move through these different levels of consciousness, which in Unity, this is from Heart-Centered Metaphysics by Albert Hasselbeck. And he explains in that book very much in detail these different 4 levels of consciousness, which start with, I do have this one here. Victim, victor, vessel, and verity, right? So victim consciousness would be like, everything is happening to me and I have no control over what happens. Okay, it's the lower level. Victor, moving up a little bit from there, is where I believe I have some ability to control these events and experiences. And maybe I've discovered this innate power of my mind, right? It also includes victim, because you have to have a victim to be a victor, if that makes sense. And a little higher than that, we move into vessel consciousness. This is where I realize there is something greater than what I think, feel, or believe I am. God, Christ, divine mind. It could be that God is in me, right? I'm an expression, but it's still not oneness. There was a really funny lecture that Hasselbeck did where he talked about vessel consciousness, and he said it's like the wiener in the bun. It's God in me, but it's not me. I'm still the bun. So I always thought that's my visual for vessel. Now it's yours too. So it's like God showing up as me, but it still has victim because things happen to me, but here is God happening to me, right? Or it's like that seed of Abraham. It might be like something really good or that we regard as something wonderful happened to us, but it's still external influence to us, right? It's still something that has power and influence over us. Things are still happening to us in vessel. So verity consciousness is the realization of oneness. Right? There is no such thing as God or divine mind and me. Right? We realize Christ consciousness and have a profound understanding that it is me. And we experience all of these, probably simultaneously in different areas of our lives, because all levels of consciousness are part of the human experience, right? So a person who lives unity principles, right, and has taken this on, if you notice yourself in victim, just don't be hard on yourself, right? We have compassion, and that's the gift, is like when we notice ourselves, when we slip into those lower levels of consciousness, if you take it as a gift, you can make the shift. Let alone. If you take it as a gift, if you allow yourself to say, wow, this is amazing that I even have the awareness that I'm going there right now. Because how many times do we just go there and stay there for a long time until, like, somebody has to snap us out of it or something has to happen, right? But when we work with our consciousness, when we work with these awarenesses, then we bring ourselves to choice. And how cool is it to have choice so that we are not disempowered, right? But always have compassion with yourself, because it's normal to go through all these levels of consciousness. So yeah, when we catch ourselves being disempowered, when we're focusing on or blaming, attaching to anything that is not you, right? You are everything. So attaching, even in this example with Abraham, attaching to your superiority. When you blame your genetics, or you blame someone or a place or a condition on anything, right? You're externalizing your own power. You're separating yourself from yourself. Doesn't that sound painful? That's what makes us sad. But all that you are is pure source energy, pure consciousness, pure soul frequency, right? And by blaming, you're perceiving. And by that perception, you're creating that perceived separation from that focus, right? If you focus on anything that is not you. People create this us versus them thing, and it's not. It never is, and it never will be. It's only if we get stuck in that illusion of that there's like a victim. It's like being stuck in a rut of disempowerment. So we free ourselves from that by taking ownership over all of it, noticing when we're there, But we take ownership of everything, all the beautiful things, all the bad things. We won't be free moving up that scale, right? Until we give ourselves permission to experience that and be free. Until we recognize that we are the only ones not allowing ourselves to experience that level of empowerment. And as we're doing this work, as we're playing this game of life, as we're waking up, as we're expanding consciousness, we begin to realize there's really not a lot of room for the game of disempowerment and playing small and hanging out in that victim for a long time once you've noticed it. Because it's just not who you are. So, verity, freedom, we need to be reminded that we are creating everything in our life. It's so easy to forget that. But even if we do something as simple as setting an intention every day, just asking for that highest intention every morning when you wake up, it moves you towards releasing disempowerment, right? But the more we get stuck in that rut of what isn't working, the more we perpetuate the belief that we can't change it. So in order to liberate ourselves from those bonds, not only ourselves, but this kind of vibrates out to the rest of the world too. In order to have the world be in verity and free, and as free as possible, right? We need to take the first step and ensure that every aspect and moment of our own lives is aligned to our highest intention. And those vibrational frequencies reverberate to the rest of the world and co-create a dynamic where we're all blessed, being blessed, all free. So this is I like to acknowledge all of us Unity people, because a lot of people come to Unity and are not okay with these teachings. They're not okay with hearing truth with a capital T. There's 100% responsibility and accountability for your life when you're in verity consciousness. You know, when there is no separation of God and me. But people who are here don't want to give their power away to a God out there that punishes or rewards arbitrarily, right? But it's also a lot because it's all within. You know, it's like, yes, I am accountable and I can create the life I want. It's all happening within and it's all in consciousness. That's true freedom. It can't be manipulated or taken away. It comes from knowing your eternal self and operating from that awareness of Christ consciousness, right? So the good news is, when you align yourself with that awareness, that you are this pure source energy, that you can be free in all of those life areas, right? Any situation. You can be free in your marriage without causing a divorce. You can be free when your checking account was low without making a deposit. You can be free from past or current failures without loading a U-Haul truck, or whatever that would look like, you know? That's the teaching. That's the shift in consciousness. When you're aware of what level you're operating from, then you're at choice. That's where your free will kicks in. You can decide in that moment to be expansive or to limit. And when you decide to expand, you have the backing of the whole universe behind you, because that's all the universe does, is expand, expand, expand. And acknowledging this oneness will give you more freedom in more ways than you can see. So God bless you guys. Be free and expand. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you. That provides a lot of food for thought for me personally. Thank you for that message. Thank you to everyone also for the support that you demonstrate for our church and for the message here. So we have come to that time now where we will give back to our spiritual center with our tithes. If you're here in person, we have baskets in the rear of the sanctuary. If you're joining us online, you can go to our website, unityoffortpierce.com, and look for the donate page and button, or also our address if you would prefer to mail a check. And your support is, again, deeply, deeply appreciated and honored and blessed. Together we will say,
The inexhaustible resource of spirit is equal to every demand. There is no reality in lack. Abundance is here and now manifest. Thank you, Father, Mother, God.
we have a special song to share with you.
We are dancers in the light and singing. We are dancers in the light of truth. We are dancers in the light and dreaming. And this dancer made of light is you. La la la. streaming, and this desert and light is you. The left inside knows so surely what is right and what is true. A voice inside speaks so purely, it's in me, and it's in you. We are dancers in the light and singing. We are dancers in the light of truth. We are dancers in the light and dreaming. And this dancer in the white is you. It is
All right, thank you. If you would like to join us in the learning and singing of songs, feel free to come. We have choir practice every Tuesday at 2 o'clock here in the sanctuary. Our other weekly offerings, classes of all types, midweek meditation, etc., are on our website page. There's a calendar page where everything is listed, times, details. I did just want to highlight a couple of special things that are going on this month. Julia is offering a Zoom class each Friday at noon, a kind of a lunch and learn, so you can contact her for information or sign up for that. Reverend Janice is offering a class on Wednesdays at 7 p.m., also on Zoom, and in October those are on the 13th and the 20th. And then, so you can get working on your outfit, I want to announce that we are having our annual beloved Halloween costume bingo. That will be here in the sanctuary, and it's actually the week before Halloween, so that people can do things with their families also. It will be on October 22nd. So start thinking about your costume. We'll have a prize for best costume, and it's always really a lot of fun.
And raffles are going on right now until bingo.
And also we do have raffles. Some of them are in the back of the church right now. Those will be added to. You can buy a ticket for them whether you intend to come to bingo or not. And those will all be awarded. We got some great stuff, so thank you. Okay. Time for children.
We are walking in the light, in the light, in the light. We are walking in the light, in the light of God. In the light, 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 in the light of God. In the light,
So, children and teachers,
we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. And we see you doing great things.
Go up on stage.
What did we do today? We read the Good Samaritan, and we did, remember when you were little? We used to do, I tried to do the elephants. You know, elephants have families, they're brothers and sisters and family members too, and how we're all part of the family. And we're all one, and so, and then Grace, you tell them what that is. Leaves. Leaves. Yes, but what's on our leaves? Words. Well, there, on our door, we have a tree with kindness leaves, and you can take a leaf off, and it gives you a little thing to do for kindness. But we also did some nice, kind things you can do on a leaf. So we're going to have this in the back when you leave. You can take a nice fall leaf.
All right, thank you.
the song. Prayer for protection.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Sit. I think it should stay here always, never move, right here. Okay, so like